So a big thing in WWE 2k24 is going to be the universe mode. So how do you make it either realistic, make it fun, make it the best universe mode possible? Now this is going to require a few things. So first and foremost, we're going to go into a new one. We're on a brand new account, so we'll slot it in, we'll skip everything, and we'll kind of go through what's the best things to put in it. So honestly, the superstar mode, it's a funny one because I feel like in terms of sports games, so like if you're looking at a FIFA, a Madden, it tends to be quite interesting, whereas I must admit, whenever I've done superstar mode or followed a specific person, it's always ended up really boring. And I don't know if that's just the game's design. I'm much more of a big fan of the classic mode. The original sandbox, we get to make it how we want it. So obviously this one, so do you want to proceed with the classic mode? I don't want any tutorials, so clicking no there is going to be vital. So the first things first, we're on the first show. Obviously they're going to do this as a bog standard. You'll have Raw, you'll have NXT, SmackDown, and as you can see we have got a decent amount. And if you go through, you can obviously see all of your extra stuff, so that's going to be brilliant. So the first thing I would do is go into my universe and then I'd go into options. So we have obviously got classic mode, superstar mode, you keep that at classic. The automatic rivalries I've always had an issue with, so I'm just now at a point where I'm like, I always just turn them off. For some reason, whenever you keep it on, the rivals almost take over the show. Like not to all of the extent, but you just find that if, for instance, John Cena and The Rock are rivals in this, week after week after week, it is rematch after rematch for them. I take that off, and again, it all depends on how much responsibility you are putting. Are you making every single show, or are you making a storyline that the universe mode can carry out as well? You have tag team breakups and formations. I personally keep that on. That is down to you totally. Crowd reaction changing, I would keep on as well. Injuries on, entrances on, and then we get the AI announce cash-in, mid-match cash-in, and also the post-match cash-in. I don't personally like the announced cash-in because what I found is over time, normally after Money in the Bank, it's like the next week or the second week, there's always a cash-in that's before. And what an announced cash-in does is basically makes a match for you. So instead of like how you'd normally expect with cash-in, waiting for the post-match and kind of just go whilst he's already down, that will do it prior. So it's like, say Roman Reigns, I've won the Money in the Bank, I'm challenging you tonight. There is a match made. I don't like that. I don't want that. Then you have the mid-match cash-in. You've obviously got this is just completely in the mid-match. So basically it turns it into a triple threat if the match is a championship match. I personally turn this one off. And then you have the post-match cash-in. I normally put this to 1 because then there's a little chance. But there is one big thing with the cash-in in the AI, and that is if you're not doing it, you have to be simulating or at least playing the match. You have to be in the match. You can be just watching. You don't have to be controlling anybody, but for the AI to work, you actually have to be in there. Then you obviously have the universe tutorials. Turn them off. Get rid of them. We don't need them. Then we've accepted. So that's all the groundwork. When it comes to your tag teams, I would normally wait until you've kind of gone past the first week, personally, because when you look at tonight's show, none of these get rebooked if they've got tag teams, so it just becomes a little bit tricky to kind of go with that and move everybody around, unless you are physically doing every single show. So normally I give it a week. I maybe go to a SmackDown, then do Raw, and then obviously when I go to Raw, I'll do SmackDown. Personally, with NXT, you can obviously get rid of it. You can just delete it if you really wanted to. It all depends on what kind of shows you want to do, but we'll get into that. So with obviously the My Universe, we have the tag teams. So that is just something you can either delete, you can make your own. So obviously if you wanted to delete, for instance, the Creed brothers, you can just press Y. Would you like to disband this team? So that is something you can do, but once you've deleted them, you have to make them again if obviously you want to. Then if you want to create, it's a right stick in. You can then just go through the normal stuff. You can make the crowd reactions cheer or boo for obviously heel or face, and then you can make names and team announce members. Obviously you need 2 at least for the partnership, and then you can have the entrances and stuff like that, all that good stuff. So that is kind of where you'd go with that. Again, it depends on what you are looking for in terms of a tag team universe mode. Some people might just want singles, only singles, and that's it. I must admit, the tag teams I quite like with where they're at the moment. I might make some of my own. Maybe you go in for something a little bit different. Maybe you just want to try and put some people that are allies together and some people that are enemies together as well. It kind of works. You've got the authority in here, the bloodline. Obviously, you can have your own fun with that. So there is quite a good selection that you can do when it comes to it. You've obviously got mixed tags as well, which is really cool. So you could identify that as something you want in your universe mode. When it comes to the rivalries, so we've obviously got the rivalry slots. I personally don't bother with this just yet. I'd kind of get a few in and to see how the universe mode is shaping up, and you can kind of make your own slots there. Personally, it is just kind of selecting, and you can kind of select, you could choose the rivalry, obviously then you can choose 1, 2, you can choose the intensity. That is all based on what you personally want to do, but the rivalries I'm not too fussed about just yet. Championships are going to be a big one. Sometimes if you wanted to do it kind of like from a fresh, you could vacate everything and basically have a run up to getting the title. So you could have nobody as champion, then obviously you go forward and you could start putting it back in. So for instance, if you wanted to go back to the 03 championship, if you wanted more of a retro universe, that is something that's going to be really interesting to do. And to be honest, I've seen some kind of YouTube series on this where people are they may be uploading their specific matches every single time, whereas I kind of would like a full show. I'm not saying that everybody's going to watch it, but it would be interesting to see what would happen with a 98 Intercontinental Championship instead of the normal one. It's just something different. I like it. So you could remove everybody or just keep everybody the same. You can obviously change as well. So if you remove champion, obviously that one is then vacated. If you wanted to then hold a match for it, you can obviously do that as well. We're going to give it back to Seth, just because it will be annoying to change it. So it's obviously got to be the right Seth as well. Then obviously you've got loads to go with here. You can also do any of the tags. You've got the women superstars as well. And I believe you can have custom in here as well, which would come under the name order also. So once we're back out of this, we then have the superstars. So we do have custom superstars in this as well, if you have started it at the same time as downloading them, or you could just start a new one, edit them in, and that's all good. So I've only just got one here, which is just a extra test more than anything. It's not anybody that's I've got specifically going into the WWE. Then we have the superstars themselves. So you have allies, enemies, tag team, manager. So if we was to look at this, we go into AJ Styles, for instance. You can see, or in fact, how do I go into his info? Is it this one? No. Oh, I hate all these. Right, we'll go into here. We should. How do I go into the? Oh, there it is, the edit. Of course it is. So if you go into this, you can obviously edit their attributes. Again, it depends on what you're looking for. You can obviously change all of their stuff here, but then it should be at the bottom. Here we go. You have obviously got the allies, you've got the enemies, you've got the managers, and you've also got the team. So with these, the managers, basically the top level is always going to be on the left. So level 1 is the least level of ally, and then level 5 is going to be the most. So it's going to be the person they are allied with the most, and that then works for the rivalries or the enemies. You obviously get a level 5, that is number 1. So LA Knight is kind of just a bog standard enemy, whereas Finn Balor is kind of the big enemy. Same with the managers, you've got level 1, 2 and 3, and then finally you've obviously got the teams. So again, it is going to be mainly tag team there, but they are the same sort of thing. So you can play around with them. Maybe you want to get rid of them, want to put more in. That is something totally up to you. Personally, I don't really change them too much, as they do change throughout the whole journey. And as you can see, everybody's already set up pretty much there if you have obviously started with the normal career mode. So then we go, that's the tag teams, the superstars, the rivalries, the championships. We've also done the options. We then also have the option to edit shows. So at the moment, we have got 3 different shows. So for instance, if we do this now, we obviously have Raw, SmackDown and NXT. We also have all of the other events that are available to be moved. So personally for me, especially if this is a first run through for the universe mode, I would personally delete NXT. Mainly because running 2 shows, especially if you are trying to be very hands-on with the decision, can be very difficult to get the good ratings, and also to just not be bogged down with everything. I find having the SmackDown and Raw just as the two so much easier. Then obviously with that, NXT events will be blocked as well. So if you wanted to delete that out the show, you can obviously do that. So we've only got now Backlash, Night of Champions, the NXT we can go through and get rid of. And as you can see, we can spread this out a little bit more. So if you wanted to move Night of Champions, so you've got a monthly almost promo every time, that again is going to be a great one for you. So what I would do with this then, so say we're back onto this, we can obviously change and edit the info as well. So if we wanted to edit the participants, you obviously can do that. I believe as well, when you create in a show, you could just press Y. Say we wanted to go with a minor, you can obviously add the show details, you can obviously do that. You can have the number of matches all the way down from 3 to 9, default match table, so that's going to be, we'll get into that because that's going to be a whole load of things. You obviously have the host show, so you can obviously just say it's a host of Raw. But then you also have the major show. So this is going to be a Raw, SmackDown. NXT will be in the templates, obviously. And then you can have a custom show. If you have some downloaded already, they will be able to be put in as well. And then you've just got to go with the participants. You've obviously got to go with the number of matches, match table, and then obviously the championships as well. So if you wanted to add a new champion, so say if you're doing something like an ECW throwback, it doesn't have to be specific. You could download a load of characters from the ECW, from obviously the WWF in that format. You could have like a 96 Stone Cold with all of that sort of good stuff and make it your own in the middle of the current as well. It's something that doesn't have to overlap. I think that's really cool in the grand schemes of editing your calendar, your shows. And again, it depends on what you're looking for. If you obviously wanted to do a retro one, you can just change Raw as well. It doesn't have to be the current Raw. You can change it back completely. So then we've done the shows. So you can make shows, you can make promos, you can make all of that good stuff. You can obviously make a big show as well. So for instance, if you wanted to add one at the end, you can add one on a Sunday. You can obviously add Backlash, you can add NXT. All of these kind of big ones you can add in as well. So Elimination Chamber, you could do again if you really wanted to. And then obviously with this, you can go from anywhere from 6 to 14 matches. Obviously with the show details, you can still change them. So if you wanted to get a custom Elimination Chamber, you wanted the 90s Elimination Chamber, I can imagine a lot of people will be designing different eras of that. So that's something really cool to have as well. Obviously with the host shows, we've got SmackDown and Raw. If you had any more, you can obviously add them in if you wanted to, meaning you could make promos. Say if you've got 4 shows, you could make 2 and 2 and have like say Elimination Chamber for Raw, SmackDown, Elimination Chamber for WWF and ECW. You could then bring them together, Night of Champions, everybody comes together for the host, and it all depends on the storyline that you're trying to progress. Then obviously, you want to go into the edit shows. So at the moment, as you see, we've only got Raw and SmackDown. These are what we kind of want to go with. And as you see with Raw, we've got 57 participants, whereas with SmackDown, we've got 46. So you can do something called a draft. So what you would do with this is almost you draft it yourself. And this will go into how much you care about it, really, to be honest. You can keep everybody the same, so you could keep up with the times as normal and obviously do the shows as they kind of were, or you can add and take people away. So you can obviously deselect people. So for instance, we want to get rid of these, get rid of them. There's 55. What you could do with then is deselect absolutely everybody, and then you could basically make your own draft. So you could do it online. There's like a spin the wheel sort of thing, and it may not be a spectacle that you could do one here, but it's something you can do for yourself, and then you draft people in. So you go through the whole roster of everybody that you want in, put names in a hat, you draft for Raw, you draft for SmackDown, you do one each. That for me is a pretty sick one. Every other name, so for instance, if I was to draft the first one and it was Kane, I'd take him out the list. The next one's going to be for SmackDown. And then you change the participants and see where they are. I find that pretty cool to do. And obviously, if you was to do it, for instance, every year, so every year of a calendar year, it would be really cool to see how they normally do it, to be honest. That is how the draft works. So that's something you can do with the participants. Obviously, you can still change the details if you wanted something like the image. If you wanted to go for a WWE design, I think you've got multiple, there's somewhere, where is it? You've got transitions, you've got Raw Arena. overlay design, which one is it? You've got the basically like the raw image, so you can change it basically designed to a different raw. If you went to custom images, you could find it as well, but there'll be somewhere down here you'll see another raw badge. So for instance, if I wanted raw, but I wanted raw 2002, 2023, or obviously anything that I find that I can download, you can change the arena as well for an everyday sort of thing. Then obviously we have got the number of matches per show, so we can change that down from 9 to 3 depending on what you want. Again, I'd probably go towards more of like the 6 to 8, maybe on occasion you might throw in a 9th, but you can obviously do that depending on what kind of show you want to build. Match table then, so this is basically how the computer or how the AI will generate the matches for you. So this is a huge thing when it comes to the actual universe, because as you'll see, you've got the match type here. We can add stuff, but I'm going to break down this. We've got the chance percentage, so this is the percentage that is going to be booked in every week. We have got the unlimited on this, so it can be unlimited, it can be 9, and it can be 1 and all the way through. We then have the 2-on-2 tag team, so that's 33% with a limit of 3. We have triple threat on 7% with 1, and then the fatal 4-way 6-man tornado. With that, you have got the main event, which you can click. The only problem I've got with that is you find a lot of the time it just doesn't work. It literally is a broken thing. I need to really kind of go through a lot of the seasons to see if it breaks at any point, because I've not seen it break this time round. But the one thing that was the problem is the championship, whenever you're doing that last year, it would just book all 6 slots as championships for some reason. This year I've not seen it do that, but again, I'm only a few weeks in now, so we need to make sure, well, a few days in, we need to make sure that we go through a few seasons. It just doesn't decide to break at some point. So that is something you can do, and if it does work, it would be a really cool almost AI scheduling tool. So for instance, if you wanted a 6-man triple threat tornado tag to be the main event every time, that is kind of what you'd want that to be. That's not like a buffer match, that is the main event. But we can add matches in as well. So for instance, if we go onto the default, we can add our own in here. So for instance, say I wanted to do a 5-superstar ladder match. That is just a random one. We have the chance as 1, but we make sure that it's not limited, because you will find out even at 1%, there potentially could be 3 or 4 booked on the same night. You don't want that. So if we put that at limited 1% chance, obviously the total is 101 anyway, but that's fine. But you then obviously have a chance of getting a ladder match in there. You can book in whatever you want in this. So if you wanted a triple threat, you wanted it in a steel cage, again, just make sure that it's on limited 1, because the one-on-one normal matches are going to be what gets you by. These are going to be the wow factors, and sometimes you might find them that they 2 of them go in, so you get a 5-star superstar ladder match and a steel cage. But that's just something that is different that you could kind of bring to your show as well, if you are not decided to actually book everything yourself. Then we have the championships. So this is going to be who is currently champion. So you can obviously change this out if you want. You can vacate with an X. You can remove champion with a Y. You could also change the championship if you really wanted to. And then obviously you have the money in the bank as well. We also have an empty slot for another championship if you really wanted to. So say you wanted to bring back the 24/7 champ. That again is going to be available if you really wanted to. And I think there's only one man that normally can withhold this title. And I don't know if he's even on here. That is shocking. So we are not going to do the disrespect, but that could be on there as well. You then also have the division. So once we get rid of Woods, you have got the slot 1 through to 5, and you also have 6 and 7. With this, you have then got 2 others which are not on the roster slot at the moment. Because we took them out, they have been taken away from the rosters. So what you are here with is, if you are using a custom superstar, you've drafted them to Raw, then you want to make sure that they are in this slot. Because what you'll find is anybody in the other is not in a rosterable slot, which means they won't get booked. So for instance, with obviously the first one there, with obviously Akira, we need to get him into a slot of either, as you see, the World Heavyweight Champion, Intercontinental, Tag Team, or Women's Championship. So we're going to put him in the Intercontinental, and we will put him edit rankings, or no, not edit rankings, edit division. And then we also want to add in, if we go to the bottom, where is he gone? Is he at the bottom? There he is. So we'll add him in there, and then he'll be part of this slot. So he'll be in the power rankings. Obviously, we can edit the division so we can move people up, move them down, depending on what we really wanted to there. So for instance, if we want to move down, we can move everybody just anywhere we want. So that is just something you can do if you really wanted to. When it comes to the custom superstars, what I would personally do, especially if you are trying to build them through the ranks, I would normally start them with the minor championships, so the Intercontinental Championship, and then we move them up for the heavyweight. Obviously, they can be on both if they really wanted to, but they've just got to be slotted at the minimum. That is just a number 1 on there. So, for instance, for Alexa Bliss, she needs to be in this as well. So we'll edit division, we'll move all the way down because pretty much everybody should be ticked. Obviously, these two are not. We'll put her in, and there we go. She's back in the roster, and there we go. We can save it. So that is the must on the roster slots. You've got to have them in for them to be booked without you doing it. You can obviously put them in, but they need to be booked in at the minimum. We then also have the edit divisions if you wanted to do it there, and then the power rankings are going to be here as well. So obviously we can skip down and up if you wanted to. I don't think you can move. Oh no, you can move them. So this is just in general, like we can move them up and down depending on what we really wanted to. And then once we've done all that, that is a lot. And obviously this all goes for SmackDown as well. It's the exact same. You've obviously got the championships, all of that good stuff. So if now you are pretty much ready to get into your show, so you've done all your settings, you've done your edit shows, make sure you are doing this all first because it will take so much pressure off doing it week by week. Honestly, it's just so much easier. So make sure you are doing all of the admin stuff to start with, and then you can start doing your shows. So for instance, the Tonight Show, normally, especially in any universe mode, the first week I kind of just sim off. It just isn't what it is. So it's just what's made for us. So as you can see, we've obviously got the main events, the first match, all the way through. Once you have done this first one, then obviously your kind of settings should take over. So obviously if we wanted to skip, you can go into here and we can simulate until this. So obviously it's going to go from week 1 and then we go into the simulation, and then any changes that you've made should then be here. So if you've taken superstars out, put superstars back in, this should be then the rosterable slot that we've done. And that is absolutely everything on universe mode. Hopefully you did enjoy. Let me know, especially for everybody else, if there's anything extras you'd add in this into making it the best realistic, fun universe mode you can physically make.